We are looking at ways to improve the Clark School of Engineering at the University of Maryland. There are numerous problems that us as engineering students have noticed within the Clark School of Engineering. First off is the grading style that instructors choose to use for engineering classes. Currently, they grade on a normal distribution, which means that each student falls on a bell curve, with the most number of students sitting around the C to B- range. This is being used because it grades consistent across different classes and evenly disperses the number of students for each letter grade. There are numerous downsides to this grading method, including grade deflation, decreased learning, and an increase in mental health issues, just to name a few. A second big problem we found with the engineering school is the curriculum in STEM classes right now. Teachers aren't being particularly effective when teaching difficult topics to students. Most of the time, teachers lecture without realizing that students retain very little information upon walking out of the lecture. Also, course objectives and learning outcomes aren't always clear, leading to confusion about what skills the class is supposed to teach. Lastly, University of Maryland does very little outside of the Career Center to prepare students for their careers in STEM fields. So starting off with the grading methods within the engineering school, as I mentioned before, University of Maryland currently has a normal distributed curve for most of their STEM classes. This means professors curve students so they fall on a bell curve, with the mean being where the most number of students fall. However, the purpose of this grading method is for ranking students, which is not necessary when learning is the main goal of school. When students are being graded in a competitive manner, they won't work together on assignments to help each other succeed because it will lower the curve and potentially lower their grade in the class. This grading method hides grades because a student could have failed an exam but still passed the class. This means students did not master the material or objectives in the class, which destroys the learning being done in school. Students also have an increase in stress, depression, and exhaustion due to the lack of social support. Therefore, we have explored some alternatives to grading on a normal distribution. One alternative that we found is left of center grading, which means the professor purposefully makes the median below a 50%. This grading method is used by a few classes at the University of Maryland Engineering School. This grading method means that someone who got a 40% on exam can get curved to a B or a C. This does challenge students, but it does not test their knowledge. This grading style only stresses students out because they spend long hours studying for exams that they walk out of feeling unsure about all of the questions that they've answered. If professors give these impossible exams, students won't confirm that they know the material if they can't even solve the problem. This causes students to question their success and major after feeling like they failed. This practice is very discouraging for students and decreases the learning being done in classes. Lastly, we explored criterion-based grading or standards-based grading, which means students meet the professor's set expectations and objectives. This grading method means students won't be competing against each other for the same grade like in normal distributed grading. Students will also be encouraged to work together because their classmates' grades won't impact theirs. Before a professor passes a student, the professor checks off that a student has mastered each topic, which enforces the learning being done. Students need to master each objective that was set, and then they can pass the class. The only problems with this grading method could be that too many people get the same grade in a class if they pass it. If this is implemented to schools, professors would also have to figure out how to grade transcripts. They could grade on a pass-fail basis or by letter grade.
Better teaching methods are to clearly define course objectives and learning outcomes, to define what's important, which leads to better course outlines so that students and teachers can be on the same page. Promoting active learning in class, such as in-class exercises in groups, completing derivations of equations, thinking of practical applications, because students learn by doing, so teachers should be trained on the most effective methods for teaching. Our proposed solution is to train teachers on the best practices and to transition to standards-based grading to grade on whether or not students have met the class expectations, because this focuses on students learning and mastering material. Together, these can improve the Clark School as a whole. Next steps could be to organize meetings within each department to change the grading, professors can outline clear course objectives that students have to learn and only test those topics. From there, the professors can decide on a pass or fail grade for students and to make sure that teachers know the best practices for effective instruction.